Today we're going to be talking about the Liverpool versus Real Madrid second leg in the Champions League. So before we get into the match itself, what did you make of the lineups?
See, I was, to be honest, very surprised with the decision of Zidane going Valverde at the right back instead of Odriozola. Dude, you have to feel for that guy, man. When Carvalho is playing, he doesn't get a look in. When he got injured, Odriozola got injured simultaneously. So Zidane had to play Lucas Vazquez at the position. Then Vazquez became so great at this position. Then even when Odriozola came back, he was not given a look in. And now, when both of them are injured, a player who is on pretty much every medication right now is playing instead of him, then you have to got to feel for the guy, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel for Odriozola, and I actually think he's a good right back. I think he can fill in pretty well for the injured Carvajal, or in this case, Lucas Vasquez. But also appreciation to Valverde, who is a real fighter, and he gave everything he had, even though he was injured. So yeah, appreciation to him.
But in the first 10 minutes, he was quite shaky, and I think Liverpool were really targeting his position. And I think if Salah or even Mane had taken their shots well, a goal would have gone in, and the attack would have been considered to be from his side only.
Yeah, it's difficult for any player to deal with Mane, let alone an injured player who's usually a midfielder. And so
Or a forward in
I
many
get what
cases.
you're saying. Like, yeah, sort of forward or winger in many cases. Anyway, getting into the match, so very like I guess in the first few minutes we had a very rash challenge from James Milner, and I remember seeing somewhere that there's some Madrid fans who thought that should have been a red card. What do you
Yeah,
think?
dude. Uh, when we saw the match, it doesn't. It was a harsh challenge to be honest, but it didn't seem a red card kind of challenge to me. But when I saw the replay and the photos after the match, dude, it was a proper studs up challenge at the ankle. It was like he was actually going to break his ankle for good. It was that bad of challenge. And it was, I am not sure about the yellow card. It was definitely not, red card not was not given, but it should have been red card any day in any league in the world right now. It was so bad. And I think that's the reason, maybe it's just the news talking, that Casemiro went in for that challenge when he went in after some 10-15 minutes, when he went full Pepe in front of the squad that was sitting on the bench on Milner only. And people were, I was reading the reports, and it was, especially the Spanish media, was terming it as the fact that it was not like this challenge or some intention challenge. It was a well calculated challenge in front of the squad to on Milner specifically. Because as you've seen in the first 10-15 minutes, Milner was playing very rash. He was doing this kind of things very frequently. So, and I think maybe Casemiro, Casemiro, he plays kind of this destructive role. I think he did the challenge, and even this Zidane, you can see he was clearly smiling and laughing at the back when the challenge was made, and in the aftermath also. So I think it was the cynical Casemiro touch, and that's I think that, and you have to give it to him. He got a yellow card in first 15 minutes to 20 as also, and he plays this destructive role. Even after that, he was not booked once in the entire 70 minutes next, or even called for a foul, because he balanced the game so good after that.
To be honest, that is something I would expect from a world class player like him. But let's move on. In the first few minutes, we saw that Liverpool were completely dominating the game. The defense was high, the line was high, the midfield won all the battles, and the attackers, they were looking pretty sharp apart from in front of goal. I mean, they were creating chances for fun, but they weren't able to convert the chances. The first thing I want to talk about is Salah's shot, which went straight at Courtois. That was a huge chance, right?
Me, I personally don't think it was. See, obviously, Courtois saved it. I don't think it was. It was a bad shot, to be honest, but it was not straight at Courtois. You have to see the replay. He shot. He saved it with his left foot. So it is not especially a straightforward shot. But yeah, Courtois, I think it was not the case of being them so bad. I think it was a case of Courtois being so good in the starting, especially. The first shot, I am agree that when he was straightforward and it should have been a goal. But the second one, it was beautifully taken by Salah, and it was a great curler. But Courtois came up good. Courtois made a fantastic save, and I think he literally saved the match then and there. And same for Allison also in that match. You remember at around
Courtois was excellent. He
60,
was
70 minutes,
absolutely brilliant.
Vinicius on through on goal, and Benzema was also coming behind him. And Neuer make this. Sorry, I'm saying Neuer because that's a fact. Allison was playing like Neuer in that match. The sweeper keeper kind of role he was playing. So it kind of got me confused. So yeah, Allison made this fantastic save. So I think keepers came up good. I think in general the whole defense of both teams came up good. I think that's the reason why Vinicius was so shut down in the match. The was better individually. It was not as much as tactics. It was the plays were, especially the Liverpool ones, were better individually in defense today. But you should have
I
seen.
want to disagree with you slightly there. I don't think this was a case of the defenders being good and the attackers being their usual selves. I actually think that while the defenders were not bad, it was the attackers who had who let down their teams. I don't think it was a case of the defenders being too good for the
It's
attackers.
two things. First, Real Madrid attackers, I don't think particularly were trying to attack that much. I think the game plan from the starting was very clear that we're coming on an away match. We have a 2 goal cushion. They were there to keep that cushion alive. They were just sitting back and taking the balls and soaking the pressure in. So I think they were the strategy was like you were talking about also in the like last night, that they are just going to attack when there's a counter. And I agree in that there was 2, 3 chances where they should have scored the goal. But as you've seen with Vinicius, you can't really say that he has a bad day. It's like pretty much same thing every day. He misses
So the
left
reason
chances for
why
like for breakfast.
The reason why I said what I did was because you saw that I think there were 4 or maybe 5 shots that Liverpool took, which went soaring above the crossbar. I remember one from Salah, maybe one from Mane, and one from Wijnaldum. And I remember Benzema's missed header. All of those were really good chances.
Yeah, but in
I'm not denying the fact that the defenders were good individually, but as I said, I think the attackers were the
yeah,
ones who
see,
really let their teams down.
Liverpool
This
once
should have been a high scoring game.
Liverpool once failed, but in case of Benzema header, literally 3 defenders were covering him. One of them was Nathaniel Phillips, which is very tall, as we have established. How do you think he was going to score that anyway?
No, I actually think that for a player of Benzema's class, the defenders weren't surrounding him as such. It was a relatively free header. I'm not saying it was uncontested, but it was a free header. I think Benzema should have done better. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to another talking point, which is the fact that Liverpool made some interesting changes to their squad at the start and then decided to bring on Jota and Thiago at the 60th minute mark. Do you think they made those changes too late, or was it at the right time?
I think Thiago was at the right time, but I think the inclusion of Jota was a bit late. I think he should have brought it on for half time. I think what Liverpool were trying to do in the midfield was clearly working because I have never seen Modric and Cruz being outplayed in a match of Champions League, to be honest, like that. They're usually pretty good in Champions League. So they were, whatever Modric and Cruz were trying to do, were really put down by Liverpool defense. So I don't think Klopp would have liked to tinker with the midfield. But yeah, in attack, I think he should have brought in Jota pretty much earlier because attack was clearly not clicking in the match.
Yep. I guess Liverpool just needed 2 goals to win, and they should have done a lot more because it wasn't looking likely that Madrid would score a goal, and Liverpool probably should have done more to get those 2 goals because obviously they had that away goal. Now, what do you think is going to happen in the semi-finals? As we know, Chelsea won against Porto, and they will be facing Real Madrid in the semi-finals. I think this is the first time that the Real Madrid and Chelsea are meeting since the 1980s.
Yeah, it's the first time ever in the Champions League. It's the first time ever in Champions League. So I am quite surprised that considering the history of Chelsea with Spanish teams, how they have not competed against Real ever. So it's a kind of a homecoming for Eden Hazard, Thibaut Courtois, and Matej Kovacic also, the other way around. But yeah, Eden Hazard, clearly we have not seen him much do anything at Real Madrid. So I'm not even sure that he will play against Chelsea at this point. But yeah, it's going to be a great match to tactical. Okay, I will not call Zidane tactical genius, but he is proving his metal as a tactical genius at this point. And but the biggest problem with Madrid right now is, see, they're clearly going to target the Champions League. There's no doubt about that. But look at their fixtures. They have pretty much a game every third day at this point. And in La Liga, and it's not like they can use La Liga easily. It's a final every day right now. Like the rank says, tomorrow's a final. That catchphrase. So yeah, so they have to focus there also. The squad is as paper thin a squad can get right now, considering for the 2-3 French players Iran doesn't trust anyway. Like players like Isco or Mariano, you say are not going to shot. So the current players are going to be so exhausted. So I'm not sure that it's going to be as easy as it was in the first leg against Liverpool. So, but yeah, Chelsea doesn't really have that quality in midfield, to be honest. They have a good defense. They have a good attack. I'm not, the attack is not fully functional yet, but they have a good attack. But the midfield is the most effective part of Chelsea's game. But the problem is the quality is not there to compete with Real Madrid's midfield. I personally, apart from Kante, I don't see a player in the midfield of Chelsea who can counter the physicality of Casemiro.
Just I want to touch on your first point about Zidane. I think Zidane has already established himself as a great manager, but this season he is just showing his class. As you said, Real Madrid have been plagued by injuries. They have paper thin squad, and yet they won. I mean, they won against Liverpool, they won against Barca, and now they scraped through a 0-0 draw at Anfield to
Yeah,
progress to the
this is the
semi-final
kind
of
of
the
matches
Champions
they
League.
suffer in. Like you have to suffer this kind of matches to
Yeah,
really
yeah,
win the Champions
true.
League. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
Zidane is really showing his class. He's managing the team very well. They're within touching distance of Atletico. They're likely. I have a feeling that at some point they'll likely go top of the table as well. Then the semifinals of the Champions League. So Zidane, yeah, he's doing really well this season. As for your point about Chelsea, I think I do agree with you. It is going to be a midfield battle, and right now Real Madrid have that advantage in midfield. Now let's just hope for Real Madrid's sake that they don't get any further injuries, and especially not to someone like Cruz or Casemiro or Modric.
yeah, that's the reason they have given 2 day rest right now to every player in the squad right now, because the
Oh,
squad,
is that right?
yeah, he has Zidane has himself said in the press conference that squad physicality is on the edge right now. The players who are playing so consistently at these tough matches that they're really burning out them. So it would be really shot in the arm if players like Carvajal and Hazard can, and even Ramos and Varane. Okay, Varane is definitely going to come before the Chelsea match because he had a case of corona, so that will definitely be cured by then. But Ramos, the corona thing will also be gone away. But the injury of Ramos, he might play, he might not. Carvajal will definitely be back for the Chelsea game. So that's a big shot in the arm. Hazard is supposed to be there, but as we have seen, you can't really pinpoint Hazard that he will play. So that's the thing. But what do you think Chelsea's preferable lineup should be against a team like Real?
I'm not sure to be honest. What do you think?
I personally think that in attack they should play Giroud. That the physicality of Giroud is going to be really great. I know that he lacks speed, but the defense, the way Real is playing, doesn't really matter if you have speed or not, because we have seen fast players like Mane playing against them. The pace is going to be very ineffective if you're trying to go full out pace. You have to be tactically strong and with good process and all. That's the only way you can counter Real right now, in my opinion. Because as good as Nacho and Milcha are good and aerially, they really struggle when the ball is low. So I think players like Giroud should play. In my opinion, Kai Havertz, the kind of form he is in, Mason Mount. I think it's a time for Mason Mount to shine in a big match, because a UCL semi-final against a team like Real Madrid is really going to be that, stepping stone for Mason Mount to show that he is not just a pretty boy in a Premier League match. He is really someone, who can play as good as Phil Foden. We get the hype.
Yeah. So it's definitely going to be an interesting match. And now, before we wrap up the podcast, I just want to touch on the other match, which was Borussia Dortmund versus Man City. Dortmund made a strong start. Jude Bellingham got a goal, but Man City made a comeback with a Riyad Mahrez penalty, and then I think it was Phil Foden who scored the
Yeah,
second goal. Man City are through 4-2 on aggregate to the semi-final of the Champions League. I think there were a few concerns that Pep Guardiola, as usual, would overthink this one, but I think
but I
those fears
think,
have been alleviated a bit.
yeah,
Do you think? Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Do you think City are now the favorites against Paris, or do you think PSG will the advantage?
I think it's going to be a tough one, to be honest. It's basically, two teams with money throwing around kind of match. But
Okay, just a one-word answer. Yes or no? We can cover this later. Just a one-word answer. Do you think
uh,
City have the advantage?
no.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. But I think this is a good place to wrap up today's podcast, a review of the Real Madrid versus Liverpool game. Thank you all for watching. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Flying Fullbacks podcast. If you enjoyed the video, then consider liking and sharing it. And for more such content, subscribe to our YouTube channel.